The Jake Asman Show will begin shortly. Thanks to all these great Patreon members who help support the show. Get your super chats ready. Jake will be here in just a moment. If you love the New York Jets, this is the place to be. And now, the Jake Asman Show.
It is a crucial week for the New York Jets. A joint practice with the Giants is upon us. Plus, will any starters play in the preseason game next Saturday night at Jet Life? Haason Reddick, he's still not with the team. It's all happening, folks. It's the Jake Asman Show. Let's hit it and get it started. Man, our Jets are primed for a historic season. We bleed Jets green each and every day. This is not the same old Jets. We have Aaron freaking Rodgers. We have Garrett Wilson. Let's go. We have Breece Hall. Please subscribe and hit the like button below. Super chat, baby. Cut the line. We have Sauce Gardner. We have Quinnen Williams. The Jets bandwagon is loaded. Now it's time to talk all things New York Jets. It's the Jake Asman Show. Here we go, Jets fans, and of course, Asmaniacs. Hit the like button, and please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get to 40,000 subscribers by week 1 of the Jets season, which is just 3 weeks away. Monday Night Football, Jets and the Niners, and we can't wait to see the Jets shock the world that evening in the Bay Area. Once again, huge shout out to everyone who made it out to our first ever Asmaniac watch party at T-Squared Social in New York City on Saturday. There are more watch parties in the works, so stay tuned for more information. Once again, just can't thank everyone enough who made the trip. 200-something people for a preseason game. We're nuts. That's how great the Asmaniacs are. That's how great the Jet fan base truly is. And joining us right now to talk all things Jets and react to the latest news and notes surrounding the team is Jets X Factor's own Brandyn Pokrass. B-Puck, good morning. Thanks for coming on the show, my friend.
Morning. How you doing today?
Living the dream, B-Puck. Living the dream. Let's start with this. We'll start with a positive update because the Jets are on the field right now practicing after an off day yesterday. Jeremy Ruckert is back at practice after dealing with a concussion. Seemingly, he's either been cleared or he's in the final stages of being cleared if he's going through individual drills right now. So that is a good sign for the Jets because, you know, before his concussion, B-Puck, Ruckert was having a really nice camp.
Yeah, I think even more so than just him, you know, being back. I'm really excited to see his role. And I'm very interested, especially with the fact that, you know, Nick Baldwin isn't no longer on the team, at least for right now. Seems like the Jets are more so moving towards using Ruckert as the role everyone really wanted him to be in, that pseudo H-back, pseudo tight end role where he can block, he can catch, and really do everything for the Jets. And that, you know, if he can stay healthy, which has been a bit of an issue at times, it really opens up the roster with cutdowns coming because now you have a guy that not only can contribute as a pass catcher, but also as one of the main blockers.
No doubt. So Ruckert back, good to see. We'll keep you updated during this stream on what's happening at practice. And then for those who want a full recap and another show, as we always give you 2 shows, Monday through Friday on this channel, Antoine Staley from the New York Daily News, who's at practice now, will recap the day with us at 4:30 Eastern time this afternoon. So, Brandyn, let's get back to the game on Saturday. What to you, if you can only pick a couple, were the biggest things Jet fans need to know about what went down in this preseason game against Carolina?
I mean, you know, for the most part, it was very uneventful. You know, it reminded me a lot of, you know, the type of game that the Jets played last year. A lot of field goals, not a lot of touchdowns, pretty good defense, and, you know, winning a slog it out game. But I think one of the main things that stood out to me was the play attack McKinley and Braden McGregor. And that is in tandem with a lot of the Michael Clemens discourse. I know some people are like, hey, you know, Clemens can be this great run stuffer, and Clemens can be this guy that can step in if, for example, Haason Reddick isn't there. And I just personally don't see it. I think with this type of basically the way the Jets like to use their defensive line, right? It's rotation heavy. It's, we're going to use basically like shift changes, like a hockey team. Clemens, I feel like, can give you something in the run game, but as a pass rusher, he's just a non-zero. And I get it's preseason. I wasn't a fan of what he showed Saturday. I wasn't a fan of, some of the things he was doing. It looked like he was jumping inside too much. It looked like he was just playing a bit out of control. You compare that to McKinley, who was setting the edge great, in my opinion, and had some really good reps as both a run defender and a pass rusher. You look at McGregor, who really using his hands quite well and also setting the edge well. Those are two guys I'd prefer to keep over Clemens. And I know we're jumping a bit ahead. We still have a whole nother week, a whole nother preseason game to see how things play out. But if you're not going to have Haason Reddick for week 1, which I hate to say is looking more and more likely, you need to have guys that can contribute in both facets and that aren't going to be a complete liability in one aspect of the game when they're on the field. I'd rather have a combo of McKinley and a McGregor than relying on a Clemens type where, guess what? What if the 49ers catch you in a third down and Michael Clemens is on the field as one of your main pass rushers, right? There are a bunch of sirens going on in the back. I'm not sure if you can hear it. Not really sure what's going on today. But, if you get caught with Clemens on third down as a pass rusher, that's giving the opposing team an edge. And if you remember the first year with Saleh, that's what a lot of people were complaining about. Why are these guys that can't get after the passer ending up on the field on third down? And that hasn't been as much of an issue considering the guys the Jets have had. But you want to avoid that, especially in a win now season, a season where you need as much production from every possible area of the team. I'd rather go with the floor plays and honestly guys that have more upside. So I'm really leaning towards McGregor and McKinley as two of the main guys that impressed me and two guys that I think could possibly supplant Clemens' starting role on the team or even role.
Yeah. Well, my big thing is based on how they've used these guys all summer, I think Clemens is safe. Like, I understand there's some discourse, hey, give Tack an opportunity, but Jeff Ulbrich the other day says he's having an outstanding camp. So, like, I think the discourse from the fans and media versus how the Jets internally feel about Clemens, it's radically different, and maybe their strategy, Brandon, is Clemens is in on rundowns. McDonald is the situational pass rusher on third downs and end of game scenarios, obvious passing scenarios, because if you look at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, we have Jermaine on the other side and Clemens versus the run, McDonald versus the pass. Maybe that's their strategy, but I do agree with you. I'd like to see more Tack McKinley in the first half of this game against the Giants. With the joint practice on Thursday, go out there with the ones against a revamped Giants offensive line that shouldn't be terrible this year. Like, I want to see more from McKinley, because if you're just comparing how they've looked from our perspective and not what the coaches see behind the scenes and whatnot, McKinley's outplayed Clemens. Like, you're 100% right about that.
And it's such a tightrope to walk, right? And in theory, it does work if Clemens is your primary run defender and then McDonald is your primary pass rusher. I think that could work. The problem is that would be another break for this coaching staff from what they've done. They haven't just played a specific guy in one role, then a specific guy in another role. It's been like I said, these hockey line changes, and it's a constant rotation. So they could have that idea, but what happens on the reps where Clemens is getting caught on the field as a pass rusher? That's the outcome I'm personally worried about. And yeah, the Jets are hyping him up. Is that hype, though, because they actually like what they're seeing? Or is that more of that coach speak where they're trying to hype him up for another purpose? We're not going to know for sure until the preseason ends.
Hit the like button if you're tuning in. I want to thank the 330 of you who are watching live right now. 101 likes. So thanks to everyone for supporting the show. That's the easiest way to do it. If you haven't, of course, already, hit the subscribe button. And look, it might be raining memberships. I saw a comment from Dick Chimney's burner that he's feeling a membership rain during this stream, and he called his own shot. 5 memberships were just gifted by Dick Chimney's Burner. Thank you for supporting the show. And now let's find out who got the 5 memberships.
Money, 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 money.
Here we go. The following 5 listeners are official Asmaniacs. Fonz NYJ, J Chip Show, Scoot WBS, Heck G, and Pat Rich. Congratulations. Thank Dick Chimney's Burner for gifting you the membership. Pay it forward is just $5 to gift your fellow Asmaniac a channel membership. I should note this as well. Best of the Jake Asman Show, episode number 6, dropped exclusively for Asmaniac channel members last night. So if you want bonus content, 35 minutes of the best of the show where Gator edits the most hilarious moments all together, you're going to want to check that out because it is, I'm telling you, one of the funnier things you'll see all year. That's how confident I am in the magic of Gator for the best of episode number 6 that we dropped last night. Shout out to Plumpy Boy for paying it forward. How about 1 channel membership?
Oh, nice.
Here we go. Listener Boogie Down Dave is the recipient of a channel membership. So we've added 6 so far during the show. Thank you so much, Plumpy Boy, and to everyone who supports us via the memberships. Brandon, I want to talk to you now about the Reddick situation. It feels like, as we were talking about the defensive line there, it feels like we're at a very pivotal point in this entire saga. Because if he doesn't show up by the end of this week, I don't see him being out there week 1. Like, I don't think the Jets are going to put him out there unless he has probably at least 2 weeks to get ready for the season. Plus, when he does show up, does he say, I have a back injury and stages a hold in? At that point, you just don't know where things could go. So your thoughts on where we are at with Reddick, and do you agree with me that if he's not there by the end of this Giants game on Saturday, if he's not there Sunday or Monday when they practice for the first time post this game, he's not playing week 1?
I feel like the goalposts have been moved so much, right? Because at first we were like, okay, if he doesn't report the training camp, it's an issue. And then it was preseason week 1 and then preseason week 2, so on and so forth. But I think this is your last goalpost in the sense of if he doesn't report this week, he's not playing week 1. I am definitely in agreement with you on that because he does need a ramp up period. I understand edge rusher isn't, as taxing of a position, isn't a position that needs as big of a ramp up. You still need to get in the football shape. You still need to be in the building, get acclimated to playing and being ready for an NFL season. And, another big part of it is we don't know if there has been, but to our knowledge, there hasn't been any other traction. Both sides are basically in a standstill. Reddick wants his contract. The Jets reportedly don't want to negotiate until he gets in the building. And until someone budges, until it reaches a point where, there's a point of no return, you're going to have the same thing. So would I personally like him to report to camp this week? Absolutely. I think that it would be the best thing for the team. I think it'd be better for Reddick to get in the building and then negotiate from there. I just don't think it's going to happen at this point, right? Nothing's changed. It feels like the same old, same old. We know the trade request was out there as that last-ditch effort to try to gain some leverage. Where does it go from here? Who knows? But honestly, I think if it isn't this week, your big turning point that could really push it over the edge is if we get to week 1 and let's say the Jets lose by 1 score and you realize that a better pass rusher could have impacted that game, maybe you see the Jets budge after that. Otherwise, I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure how this standstill ends without one side or the other really having this, oh, we really need to get this done moment.
I just think at this point, they're better off just preparing like he's not going to be there, which to the Jets' credit, they have. And that's what I actually think is so unique about this situation. He never was with the Jets. He was there for a day. So he doesn't know any of his teammates. This is not Revis holding out. This is not Fitz holding out in 2016, where it's like he had bonds with all these guys and everyone knew, how great of a guy he was or teammate and they needed him. The Jets are looking at it like, hey, he's never been here. We have a really good defense. We've proven that this summer without him. We don't need him. That's how players feel and coaches are going to feel that way. But Douglas has to take a broader view and realize at some point you're cutting off your nose to spite your face if you can't come to terms with this guy, because he's going to help you. Maybe not, help you week one, but he could help you come playoff time when you need to chase down Patrick Mahomes in an AFC title game. You need to chase down Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen. Like, this guy closes out games. Michael Clemens doesn't. Will McDonald is incredibly unproven. Plus, there's always the risk of injuries to some of your key guys, and then all of a sudden you think you have a lot of depth, and then all of a sudden you don't. So why chance it? There has to be some way to get this done. But it just feels like at this point, I'm going to be surprised if he plays week one.
Yeah, honestly, nothing about this situation is normal, right? The way the Jets arrived to this point, the way the Jets have handled it, the way Reddick has handled it, nothing about this situation has been normal. And I don't expect it to play out in a normal sense. But to your point about the depth, the whole point of having the depth is that you can replace the guys that are your best players. Having whether it's a Clemens or a McGregor or a Watts or a McKinley is great when you have Reddick and Jermaine starting as your edges. That depth becomes a little worse, and now you're in a bit more of a precarious situation when Reddick isn't there, because your run stuffer rotational guy in Clemens now has to move to a starting role. Can he handle that? Now McDonald has to take on an even bigger role. And as high as I am with him as a pass rusher, he hasn't proven it in a larger number of snaps, right? The same could go for McKinley in this scheme. The same could go for McGregor. How does Jermaine handle being the primary edge guy and having all that focus directed at him? These are the things you deal with without Reddick being in the building, without having that, 4 straight season double-digit sack guy across the way on the other side of the defense. So it'll all play itself out. I do think he eventually ends up in the building, and quite frankly, he has to play this year to get that contract that he wants. It's just a matter of when does it happen? And quite frankly, if anyone has a solid prediction on it, I think you're crazy, because I don't think anyone has a prediction on when this is going to end.
It has been certainly all over the place. There's no doubt about that. The other crucial storyline this week, Brandon, joint practice against the New York Giants. Now, the Jets, I think, strategically scheduled 3 joint practices this summer because their intentions are to not play the vast majority of their starters or important role players in any of the preseason games. And that has been the case through the first 2. We know last year, Aaron Rodgers and the starters on both sides of the ball did play a couple drives in the final preseason game against the Giants. Given the fact they now have another joint practice, given the fact that the approach to the first 2 games has been what it is, what are you reasonably expecting for the Jets in that preseason game next Saturday? Do you see any starters? Is Aaron going to be out there? Your thoughts on what that potentially looks like on Saturday?
I think my answer is it depends. And it depends on how the joint practice goes and how much work they get and how much good work they get. Because let's say, for example, the Jets light it up in the joint practice and Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson carve up the Giants secondary and the offensive line gets great push and rips off a few big runs. I don't think you're going to see many or any of the starters in that case. But if they struggle, if they deal with, some issues, some miscommunication, penalties, I think there's a shot, not a big chance, because I think the Jets are very much in their ways and they were very intentional in how they set up their training camp and preseason schedule. I think you would have a bit of a chance of Rodgers going into Salah's office being like, hey, I need to drive with some of the starters just to get our feet underneath us more, see a few things more live, and go from there, right? I don't think you're going to see, Aaron Rodgers is going to play the entire first quarter of the preseason. That's unrealistic. But I think depending on what you see in this practice, you're going to possibly see some of the starters play. Not all, because I think that just isn't going to happen. But, if the offense struggles a little bit here and there, maybe you see Rodgers and, a few of the offensive linemen, maybe Tippmann, to work on some snap exchanges in that game just to get more of a live feel. But outside of the offense, I do think you might see a Sherwood. You might see a Fotu. Some of the not necessarily starters, but the rotational starters play, just get their feet underneath them and just have a few more live reps heading into the season. So basically, in full, my answer is I think you're going to see a few starters play regardless of outcome, like a Sherwood, a Fotu. If JBC is healthy as that main rotational piece, probably him as well. But depending on the outcome of the joint practice, that's where the Rodgers, the Tippmann, some of the offensive linemen, some of the other defensive linemen, some of the other linebackers. But depending on those outcomes, I think you might see a few more of those guys play.
K-Brock says, my membership expired. Damn. All right, contest. Anyone who gifts K-Brock a channel membership will get an item in the Jake Asman merch store. That's how we do it, BPOC. We pay it forward, all right? If you gift K-Brock his membership, he wants to use the Edgemos. He wants to use all the features that you get. He wants to watch the Best of the Jake Asman Show, episode 6, which debuted last night. If you gift them a membership, if you're the one who does it, any item in the merch store, or I'll just send you something that I think will look good on you, whatever you prefer. A comment here I want to address. This is from Joe Mike, who wrote in, Jake, why was Isaiah Oliver inactive for preseason game number 2? He was terrible in game 1. No way his roster spot should be a lock. Eccles played better than him, and he played game 2. Head scratcher. Joe, Isaiah Oliver is dealing with some sort of injury. He's not practicing right now, so that is why. So I don't know his status.
Yeah, him and JBC are currently not practicing today. So they're both dealing with some sort of injury.
Ricky NY with an Asmaniac super chat. Need Reddick for Super Bowl, but we are a playoff team without him. Let him sit. Everyone hit that like. Well, I do think that is the Jets' approach for right now. Until Reddick shows up, they won't negotiate. He'll show up, and then maybe they start some sort of negotiation. That said, Brandon, we still really don't know what this defense is without Reddick, because it's not just Reddick not being there. It's also the fact you don't have Huff, you don't have JFM, so you're replacing a lot that there's that unknown. I have faith they're still going to be very good defensively, but week 1, you want to be at your best against a great team. There's no question Haason Reddick gives you a much better chance to win that game than him not being there, and obviously no Huff, no JFM, and a lot of unknowns what that D-line room looks like.
I had this viewpoint, and this was before the Reddick trade and before the JFM trade. The defensive line's one of these underrated positions where I'm like, this could be an issue for them if the guys that they think are going to pan out don't pan out. Because I think Jermaine's taking another step forward. Is it going to be the leap into superstardom? I'm not sure yet, but I think he's going to consistently be one of, if not their best defensive linemen. You need McDonald to take a leap this year. Like, if you do not have Haason Reddick to start the season, you need McDonald to take a leap. Yep. You need Javon Kinlaw to basically play the way he has in training camp and the preseason. You need Clemens, if he is in this role, to take a step forward. If you keep a McKinley, a McGregor, a Watts, you need those guys to contribute right away. Otherwise, yes, you have Quinn and yes, you have Jermaine, but with the way they rotate, that could make that unit worse than what it's been in years past. And I'm not saying that, this entire defense is going to fall apart and the Jets are going to be bad on that side of the ball. That's not what I'm saying. You still have a great linebacker room. You still have an awesome secondary room. But if that defensive line doesn't have the guys pan out that you need them to, maybe this unit is slipping from a top 5 unit to now like a top 12 unit, which, hey, if your offense does what it's supposed to do, you can offset that. It's the modern NFL. Points are king. It's just, I don't think it's as set in stone without Reddick that this defensive line is just going to fill the void of Huff, JFM, and a guy I feel like a lot of people are overlooking, Quinton Jefferson. He was one of their best pass rushers last year.
6.5 sacks in limited time.
If you can't fill that production with the unproven guys, you're going to have to find ways to have a productive defense without it. And that's a big question that the Jets really need to make sure they have answers for.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The other thing I want to get into here is Rodgers specifically, and Duncan's question here, or his statement, is kind of a perfect way to kind of go back and forth and debate this. He writes in, and great to meet you on Saturday, Duncan. Thanks for coming out. I just don't get why most of the other teams play starters for several drives in the preseason, and we don't. We can't come out flat in week one because we didn't gel in real-time gameplay. It's fair. Patrick Mahomes has played in every preseason game. So is Travis Kelce. So if the Chiefs could do it, why can't the Jets do it? I think it simply comes down to about half the league does it, half the league doesn't. Right? The Panthers didn't play Bryce Young. He's in his second year. Like, think about that. It's just how teams view joint practices, how teams view the reps you could get in practice versus the reps in the preseason. And some teams feel it's worth it. Some teams feel it's not. When it comes to Rodgers, I'm telling you, Duncan, if he said to Saleh, hey, I want to play, I think he would play. I think Aaron's cool with not playing based on his comments. So that's kind of how I look at it. Now, as far as the rest of the team, I mean, I wouldn't mind it if they played the starters. I really wouldn't if they played him for a drive or two. But I'm going to defer to what the Jets have done. And if they win, they deserve credit for that. If they come out flat, look terrible, I don't want to hear them use, well, we didn't get the preseason as an excuse for why. This is the decision they made, and we'll know if it's the right one based on how they look.
It all comes down to context within each team, right? The Kansas City Chiefs have been doing this for years. This is the Andy Reid philosophy. They play everyone. And, they also have a level of comfortability because they've won multiple Super Bowls. They can do this. And, God forbid Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. Well, Andy Reid can just say, yeah, we've been doing this for years. And a freak accident, freak injury happens. And I'm not saying this is the right or wrong thing. If the Jets play Aaron Rodgers in week 3 of the preseason and he gets hurt, Robert Saleh might not survive going into week 1, no matter whose decision it is. If Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again before games of consequences, before he even has a shot to make an impact on this season, it's a completely different scenario. And the Jets are in a spot where they need to win in the regular season. They need to win as many games as possible. They need to compete in the playoff for the division, et cetera, et cetera. If the Jets feel that their best method of doing that is making sure everybody gets the week 1 healthy, then that's the decision they're going to make. Each team has different philosophy, and I think within the context of the Jets, they are so scared of having another 4 snaps and their season ends. And no, that wouldn't happen necessarily this year because they have Tyrod, but I think their philosophy is we can get the most work possible in joint practices. We're not seeing anything that we aren't going to see in joint practices in these preseason games. Let's get everybody to week 1 healthy and hit the ground running from there. Is that the right philosophy? Like you said, we're not going to know until the first game happens, but It's what the Jets are choosing.
Niners played some of their starters last night. I was watching their game against the Raiders. Brock Purdy looked terrible, just objectively speaking. He made some bad decisions, didn't look good, but they also didn't have Debo out there with him. They didn't have Kittle, no Ayuk, no Trent Williams, and all of a sudden I'm like, kind of hard to play quarterback without all pros around you. But I guess we'll see if that means anything at all or it's just preseason. Who cares when they play the Jets week 1? Ladies and gentlemen, we asked for someone to come through for listener K-Brock. And Rat Diddy, a man who is one of the most supportive Asmaniacs out there, he stepped up to the plate and he made it happen.
Now, give me money. Or I shoot him. And I shoot all you motherfuckers. And then we take it. Your choice, bitches.
Yeah, buddy. Here we go. Rat Diddy, who will be joining me in Vegas later this week as I'm broadcasting the show from Circa ahead of their contest weekend Radio Row. Bradley is a member. Mother Effin' Chew is a member. JT, who I saw on Saturday, is a member. Yeti is a member. And, of course, K-Brock, the Jet fan. Rat, I'm going to send you something good. Rat Diddy already bought the doggy bandana in the Jake Asman merch store. He sent me a picture of that. So, Mr. Rat Diddy, you and I will talk, and we'll get you something good from the store. Also, big shout-out to Dalt, who gifted a channel membership. This one went to Dan NY, and Knob Deep, who gifted a channel membership that went to Jacob Bonellos. So thank you so much to both of you for your support. Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. Please hit the like button. If you're tuning in to the show right now, let's open up the Gusbuster Umbrella Hotline if you want in on the conversation. You heard me say circa. You heard me talk about the fact that I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be out there to sign up for these football contests.
We don't need gimmicks like giant checks and mascots to promote this year's football contest because we're giving away even more money than we did last year.
$16 million in guaranteed prizes to be exact. There's 2 ways to win and no rake.
Players in Circa Millions make 5 picks against the spread each week with quarterly and full season payouts.
Circa Survivor entries select 1 team each week with no point spread. Last the longest to win it all. Visit circasports.com for details.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Circasports.com for all the information. If you're coming out to Vegas to sign up for the contest, I will see you there. We will have an entry in the Survivor contest. So if you're an Asmaniac, I'm going to need your help. All right? Help me with my pick every week. If you want your own entry in either contest, go to circasports.com for all the information on how to sign up. All right, let's get to some calls right now with Brandyn Pokrass. So you guys need to be following on social media and, of course, read his work on jetsxfactor.com. Let's get into the conversation with Kyle, who's first up on the hotline today. What's up, Kyle?
What's going on, guys? Great content so far this show. I want to talk about some of the Game 2 takeaways and some areas of the team that I think are starting to come into focus. Codrington really helped himself the other night. I think that special teams, that there's a lot of flux and there's a chance for him to really make a mark, especially if he can take care of the ball this week against the Giants. I don't know how much he's going to play ahead of the other CBs on the roster, but he might have a special, particularly special teams role going forward. The other 2 areas of interest that I have are the 4th linebacker and, reserve interior offensive line. I think that it's between Barnes and Chaz Surratt for that 4th spot. I think that they've more distinguished themselves, or they have special skill sets that might help them make the team. And then for interior offensive line, I'm looking at Xavier Newman and Leveo as maybe guys that can maybe make the team as the 9th and 10th guy in the offensive line room. I wanted to see what you guys thought.
Kyle, great call. Brandyn, I'll let you respond to some of his points there.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing with Codrington is before the game, I was thinking in my head, like, yeah, he's been working with returners, but it's going to take a lot for him to really just make this team as, number 1, another cornerback, but number 2, as just a pure special teams guy. If he does what he does again from in the Carolina game this week, I think he's going to force the Jets' hand, because especially with the new kickoff format now, if you have a guy that can constantly rip off big gains in the special teams, in the kick return games specifically, that's an asset now. That's a big asset now. And, I would rather, have Corley do it, or Isaiah Davis do it, or even Xavier Gibson do it. But if Codrington is better than all those guys on return and consistently rips off those big gains, he's going to force their hand. And that makes the roster cut down that much more difficult, because now it's like, okay, now do you even keep a guy like Irvin Charles as, the gunner, the main special team guy, when, quite frankly, I think Stiggers and Eccles did a better job on Saturday night. So those are the fun special teams roster decisions that could arise because of Codrington's, quite frankly, amazing return ability.
One take I do have, Brandyn, I just wanted to add, I don't think Herb Charles has done enough that it's like, oh, well, he's our special teams guy. We need to give him a roster spot. Like, I don't subscribe to that.
I think Stiggers played so much better than him on special teams. And just from the way he plays corner too, I think you're just going to get better tackle production from him just right off the bat, and better special teams impact right off the bat as someone that can not only contribute on that side, but has shown really good flashes as a cornerback too. But moving to linebacker and interior, I personally really have liked what Laval has shown. I think he has some great anchors as a pass blocker. I think Newman has really improved as a run blocker at center. And I think having a backup center, especially considering that, look, I think Tippmann's going to be fine, but in the event that, the snap issues pop up again, it's a very, very good thing to have a guy that could step right in there and has starting experience because of how many offensive line injuries the Jets had last season. As for linebacker, that might be one of the toughest areas of the roster to determine, because whether it's Aguavon, whether it's Surratt, whether it's Barnes, all these guys are flying around and making plays. They're all flying downhill. They're all making an impact, running sideline to sideline. It's just going to come down to, who do the Jets prefer? I think Barnes has the edge because he was a draft pick, and it seems like this is a guy they definitely want to develop. And then I think it's between, a Surratt and an Aguavon for, who competes for that last linebacker role.
It is nice to be having these conversations as opposed to some of the ones we've had in the past where it's like, we don't know who the number 2 receiver is, or we don't know who the second pass rusher is, or we don't know who the linebacker. Like, relatively speaking, these are, first world problems we as Jet fans are finally dealing with, right, B-Puck?
I mean, yeah. Another one you could say, right? The wide receiver 6 role, Brandon Smith making a push against Jason Brownlee. We're not talking about, who's going to be the number 3 right away? Who's going to be the number 2? Now it's like, okay, is it Brownlee or Smith for that last wide receiver role? It's much better to have these conversations than, we don't know who half our starting offense or half our starting defense is going to be.
Folks, we said it at the top. The reason why you're going to want to become an Asmaniac here on YouTube is because yesterday we dropped episode number 6 of the Best of the Jake Asman Show. It is a wide-ranging episode that covers one of the longest-running sagas in the history of the show. Charles Gorman's secret chicken soup recipe that his mom has, and he refuses to share. Well, in the best of, new details emerged about said recipe. So here's a short clip, and then we get right back to your call.
First, I got to ask you about the shop first. Try to put in the password Patreon. It's not working.
The password's actually Chicken Soup 2024. Rick got it right.
It's not working.
Make sure you put all caps for Chicken Soup 2024.
I did put it in all caps.
It's actually all lowercase then.
It's not working, Jake. I don't know what the hell it is.
My merch person just told me they changed the password again. Let me get it for you.
Okay.
Ask her for the soup recipe.
She's not in the mood right now. She's talking to my dad.
By the way, the password is Dennis Gorman if you want to try that.
Is it all caps lock?
It's Dennis is all caps, Gorman is all lowercase.
It's not working.
Hey, I just got off the phone with my merch guy. It's Chicken Soup for Life. Try that, all caps.
It's not working either.
Are you serious? I'm going to have to fire this guy.
Chicken is spelled bleh.
How do you spell bleh? I think you're typing too fast.
Say, please try again.
This is unbelievable. All right, well, message me on the Discord later, and I'll get you in there when I figure this out. Charles, try one more password if you can. All caps, I want, WANT, chicken soup.
Say, please try again.
God damn. I'm sorry, man.
Don't worry about it, Jake. You know what? I'll probably come on another time, okay? Don't worry about it.
That and much more in the best of episode. Charles Gorman heavy, if I might add, episode of the Best of the Jake Asman Show. So hopefully you guys like that clip. You'll like the rest of the episode. I promise you're going to laugh. It's a lot of fun. Thanks to Gator for editing it. Boomtown for helping produce it. You guys are truly the best. Joining us right now on the Ghostbuster Umbrella Hotline, lounging on his chair, is Neil, who's up next. Hello, Neil.
What's up, guys? Brandyn, how old are you?
How old am I? 23.
Telling you, you're doing a great job. You know, I'm really impressed with what you know about the Jets. You know, I was really impressed with Jake. That's why I started watching the show.
We find talent on this show, Neil. We find them, we elevate them.
I'm telling you, Jake, fantastic. Brandon, everything you're saying is right on line. I have a question. On the defensive line, right? We have the new edge guy. What's the edge guy that's really standing out right now?
Tack McKinley?
Yes. Could we take both Carter and McKinley, in your opinion, on the defensive line, or is one of them going to be a cast out? And if there's going to be a cast out, my vote is we cast out Clemens. But what is your thought?
Who'd you mean instead of Carter? I don't know.
I want Carter and McKinley.
Wait, who's Carter?
The guy, the third, the defensive tackle.
Taylor.
Michael Clemens?
Taylor the third.
Oh. Leonard Taylor the third.
Yeah,
he's a DT. Him. He's not an edge. He's a DT.
No, I get it, but we only could take so many D linemen. So could we take him and McKinley, or do you think that Clemens is going to screw up one of those two spots as far as what we do on the defensive line?
I mean, I think it depends, right? You know, how many DTs do they want to take compared to how many edges, right? Because you have your locks, I think. You have your Jermaine. You have your Lucky Fotu, you have your Quinnen, you have your McDonald, right?
Right.
And when it comes to the rest of the roster, you know, Javon Kinlaw as well. You know, do you want to keep Leonard Taylor over, for example, a Brandon McGregor or an Eric Watts, who, look, I think all those guys in their different ways have been standing out. Do you want to keep McKinley over Taylor, or do you want to keep McKinley over Watts or McGregor? Like, it's a good problem to have, right? It's a good problem to have when you have this many depth guys on the defensive line standing out. I think it just comes down to what the Jets want in terms of balance, because you don't want to have a defensive line room that's so light that, you know, you can't play the run, but you also don't want to have like all these guys that are run first where you're not getting a pass rush. You want to have that different combination of types of players. I think the easy answer is, you know, this week I'll say even more, but I also think that the Jets are going to have to make a decision on what they want from their defensive line depth, especially if Haason Reddick isn't going to report.
Okay, what now? As far as the offensive line is concerned, you know, I was listening to BJF this morning. I really value his opinion. He went over the whole roster, and he really likes Newman on the O-line because of his versatility. He could play center, he could play both spots, and he really is shown out in camp as a guy who's going to probably make the team. Your thought on that? You like that thought as well?
Yeah, I definitely think that, you know, the more offensive line depth, the better. You know, if you can have a guy like Newman, and you can have Olu, and you can have even, you know, one of or both of Carter Warren and Max Mitchell as guys that are depth, also guys that, you know, have starting experience, that only helps you. That only puts you in a position that, you know, if you have an injury to Tippmann, or you have an injury to AVT, or you have an injury to one of your tackles, you're not just immediately falling off a cliff like last year. And, you know, if you have extensive injuries, once again, you're going to be in a bad position anyway. I just think that in the emergence of someone like Newman is never a bad thing. It's always good to have more depth, to have more guys that are not only versatile, but you could possibly count on in a pinch.
Now, the last point I want to make, the kid, the returner, what's the kid's name? Codrington. I agree with you, Brandon. You know, with these special teams being so important this year, I really think that we got to take this Codrington kid. I think that we could go without Irv Charles, like Jake mentioned. I really like having Eccles and the other cornerback, the new kid, as a gunner. And, you know, take Codrington because you want to get that explosiveness. And I don't really trust Gibson. I like Gibson, but I don't trust him. And Izzy might be, you know, if Izzy had such a great game, I think, against Carolina, I think they're going to give him a little more of the kickoff stuff this week against the Giants, and that's going to be a make or break for him, really becoming the kickoff guy instead of Codrington. What do you think on those two guys? What do you think is the better option?
I think Codrington, like you said, he has to have another big week. But
hold on one second, Brandon.
Yeah.
These goddamn exploding cigars. I gotta go, Jake. I'll call back later. Shit.
Continue.
I think when it comes to Codrington, you need another big week because the Jets aren't going to make a roster decision based on, one good return week. But he's been working with the returners and he showed what he did. Now it comes down to, can he improve on that? Can he show it again? And then that makes the roster decision hard. With Izzy, hey, there's been some improvement. He looks more decisive as a runner. I like what I've seen from him pass blocking on certain reps. I like what he's shown with his hands. He just has an uphill battle, man. Like Brees, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis, that's as good of a trio as the Jets have had in the running back room in a very long time. Comes down to, what can Izzy bring on special teams? He hasn't worked in as a returner. He hasn't been in that role for the Jets at any point of the preseason, whether it be with the 1s, 2s, or even 3s. I think that if he has a big game, maybe the Jets can flip him for value because I just don't know how on this specific roster they're going to keep 4 running backs on the active roster.
It simply comes down to, if they keep 4, I think he's their 4th, but
yes,
I think it's 30% chance they keep 4. Like, I don't know. I don't, with the amount of O linemen we're debating, the amount of defensive linemen we're debating, the debate for wide receiver 6 we're debating. I think it's very easy for the Jets to say, we have 3 really good running backs. We'll go into the season with just 3, stash someone on the practice squad. Maybe it's Izzy, maybe it's not, but we'll go from there. Like, I could very, very easily see that being the strategy to try and basically free up another roster spot for someone they're trying to keep because they have too many good players, which is a good problem to have, by the way.
Well, it's also like, are you keeping Izzy over Leonard Taylor III? Are you keeping him over a McGregor? Are you keeping him over Codrington? Are you keeping him over, one of your depth cornerbacks? Are you keeping him over a safety, another wideout? Like, as much as I think Izzy has potential, and he definitely has potential, that's never been the issue with him. It becomes a numbers game at a certain point. Are you going to keep the 4th running back over a guy that might have an impact in one of the first few weeks as an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman or as a linebacker? I just don't think that's likely.
How about this for a tweet? Jets offense just capped their worst period of the summer. Oddly uncharacteristic. Everything looked wrong. Rodgers 1 of 7. Most of those I couldn't tell who the ball was supposed to go to. Also would be obvious sack and false start. It was very weird, like they weren't trying. Well, we'll see how they respond to the next team period after that. Yikes. We don't need Reddick, by the way. That practice period just proved it. Screw Reddick. Jets defense is dominating without him.
It's very tough. Training camp's always very tough, and this stuff's very tough because you don't know on a day-to-day basis. For example, is Aaron Rodgers trying different things? What was how was the install period? Is there
they working in new plays for the first time?
It's context that us in the media we don't always have because on that surface level, this could be a specific type of practice. Okay, we're heavy install. How does the team respond to absorbing this amount of information, this amount of certain things that we want to use as we're approaching week 1? It could look completely different tomorrow and Wednesday. It's like, Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw an incomplete pass for the first 10 throws. Like, this type of things that happen. And the funny thing about reacting to training camp is you have a day like this, the sky's falling. And then when Rodgers throws 2 touchdowns tomorrow, it's, Super Bowl is back on. It's you got to stay centered. You got to just, go with the flow with it because a good practice and a bad practice is not going to dictate the season. And I think that's a big thing to remember.
The big fella checks in. Sign MC2 today. Believe in Obrick and F. Reddick. Big fella, thanks for the support. And I just want you to know that someone confused Nick Shine for you on Saturday at the watch party. They were insistent that you were actually Nick Shine. refused to believe otherwise. So your presence was still felt on Saturday. I want you to know that. More of your calls right now. Ladies and gentlemen, a man with great Wi-Fi is on the line. The great Ricky NY joins us. What's up, Ricky?
Hey, what's happening, Jake? I wanted to ask Brandon, we've seen a lot of Stiggers and JBC so far. Has there lack of snaps for Eccles because of that? And if so, what do you think that means going forward?
I think Eccles is I think a big part of it is they kind of know what they have in Eccles already, right? Like he's contributed, like he's played for this coaching staff, and I wouldn't say his roster spot's in jeopardy because we saw we've seen in practice that he's served as one of the main backups when some of the starters haven't been there. So I wouldn't worry about him until you hear something about him not being as involved on the defense. I think a big part of preseason and training camp in general, you got to see what you have in the unproven guys, and you also need to see Eccles consistently play well, consistently improve. But I think more so the reps of JBC and Stiggers is, hey, we have two unproven guys that we want to develop. Let's give them as much work as possible.
Okay, right on. I was just curious because Eccles is also like a free agent after the year, so I'm wondering if they are maybe grooming his replacement.
Yeah, hey, it's always a possibility, and you never know how the team specifically looks at things. Like I could see something one way, another person could see it another way. We're not inside the building, so we don't know specifically what the plan could be because, like you said, with Eccles' contract and DJ Reed and Michael Carter, maybe a big part of it isn't just that they want to get him reps, but they know that JBC and Stiggers are going to step in the more prominent roles next season.
Right. Yeah, that's where I was going. All right. Thanks, man.
Ricky, appreciate you. Wi-Fi held up there. It really did. And also, how great is Ricky's Edgemo that we have ready to roll when we hit another channel threshold at some point? We're very far away from it because of YouTube's insane qualifications for adding emojis, but maybe I could get to a point where we could swap one of our older ones for this. But man, Snowball, I believe, designed this one. Spot on. The way Ricky looked today, exactly like his Edgemo. As good as he gets. More of your calls right now. Buckle up, folks.
The only thing better than Alden shoes is Joey D, cause he totally rules. Jake, my brother, I'm high as a kite. I love everybody. Damn, this show is crazy.
So Bonesy was on hold, and I saw him there. I was waiting for him to come back from wherever he was so I could go to him. And then when I said, buckle up, folks, he figured, well, that's not going to be me. So he started walking out of the room.
That's so
but it was
true.
you.
I thought it was me, man, or like one of the regulars. You never say buckle up, folks, to me. So I was about to go. Because listen, when I'm waiting, I can't lower the volume in StreamYard. So I keep my phone in the back and I listen on the tablet for the store. And I'm a little like behind on the tablet. So sometimes like I keep coming back to check when the call is next. So I'm dedicated, Mo.
I love it. Well, that's why we had to go to you, baby. You're a real Asmaniac. Look what I got.
Yes, sir. And I never got to call in yesterday. I just want to say shout out to you for the night, man. What a great night. Shout out to Diddy for sending Marilyn Monroe our way. Shout out.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President Bonesy. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah. Mr. Bonesy, everybody. Yeah.
Nick Shine putting his head in. Shout out to Nick Shine. When you hang out with Nick, you better be prepared for your face to be. You can't stop smiling. All he does is joke, one-liner joke. He's just really a lot of fun. But my Jets takes. Haason Reddick, in my opinion, I think he's holding out because he's waiting for a miracle injury. Somebody gets hurt, we're going to be begging him to come. So I think that's their last thing that they can wait for to see if someone gets hurt before week 1. Say he's not ready to play week 1. Let him sit, man. I know it's against San Fran, but let's see what we got without him, and that'll even help ensure that that 3rd round pick stays a 3rd round pick. He doesn't hit his 67% that he has to play time. He doesn't hit his sack milestone to get that 2nd round pick. Let him sit a couple games. He'll be ready for the big games in the playoffs when we need him. And he's not sitting out the whole year because it helps him none. He'll be in the same situation next year. So, and I just also with our offense being so ready to go, offensive line, running the ball, we are going to be playing with leads. If you guys think that this defensive staff isn't going to have our boys getting sacks, especially playing in big-time situations with leads, I don't know, man. If there's anything I have faith in, it's our defensive line, our defensive coach, how we develop. Sound familiar? Tack McKinley, another 1st-round pick that we snatch and sign. Well, he's not even signed yet, but another player who, comes to us, a 1st-round pick who is in the wrong scheme, and we can use him correctly. We do it all the time. I don't have issues with the defensive line. I'm going to have to see it. Quinnen, what defensive lines have Quinnen already top 2 in the league? What would you guys say JJ is? Top 12 right now? We're looking for a developing, coming into his 3rd year. I think he's going to be balling. You can't have a superstar at every position. So Reddick's a blessing, man. If he comes, which he is going to come, we're going to be fine. Let these young guys eat and develop. That's what we're good for. You know that Watson McGregor, with how we develop UDFAs, one of them's probably going to be solid, man. I got no hesitation on what's going on. I trust what's going on.
Tom Ace says, seeing where Bonesy makes the sausage in that back room was a dream come true.
Dude, man, what a lineup we had. Tom Ace got to come back here. VR, seeing him with the gear. Even Carly getting to chill with all the fellas and Jay Graves. We had everybody. Rob showed up, Dre. Alden Party was, dude, what a community we got, man. What a party. I can't believe we're getting so close. I feel like Monday night we're all going to be in the same position again.
3 weeks.
Right?
3 weeks.
One thing I will say is I'm a different animal when I'm watching a real game. Like preseason, I was a little more engaged in meeting people and chilling. But when that game's on, don't even talk to me, to be honest. Like me and Jake were standing next to each other a whole Raiders game in the stadium. I don't think we uttered a different conversation besides about what was exactly going on for 3 hours. So.
Yeah, there was nothing. We were locked in the entire time, and I was getting annoyed with the Raiders fans around us who weren't paying attention or just
right.
I was like, leave, go. Yes.
what a day. All right, fellas. Yo, Brandyn, pleasure meeting you. A couple months ago at Jake's last thing, and your dad's awesome too. I had fun talking to him.
Great seeing you again.
All right, fellas, let's go, Jets.
The great Mr. Bonesy checking in. A man still celebrating his 40th birthday party 6 months after it happened. Just kidding. That's what Dick Shine would say, though. More of your calls right now. Let's go to Franco, who's up next, and we'll say goodbye to Brandyn. What's up, Franco?
What's up, guys? I've been listening to your show. I'm not sure if you mentioned this throughout the week, but I don't know if you guys saw a Good Morning Football comment from Kyle Brandt about Quincy Williams possibly doing kickoffs. Curious if you've seen any of him doing actual kicks and him being the extra tackler for the team on kickoffs, since he can kick the ball. I saw the quick video on that, or heard about that.
Yeah, Franco, thanks for the call. Your internet was a little choppy, so I'll let you go. But I got the gist of what he was saying. So I did see this clip, Brandyn. Like, based on the rules, like, you don't have to have your normal kicker there. So Quincy, in theory, could kick off and then go and make the play. It's feasible to do because you're not trying to boot it out of the end zone for a touchback now. You're trying to just boot it in the landing zone, and then it's a live play. It's basically a giant run play. So we could see teams try this. If the Jets did try this with Quincy, that would be pretty sick. I forget what's Quincy's experience kicking, though. He's done it before in a game or in college or something. There's like something specifically with him why he was mentioned as like the Jet player that would be able to do this.
I think it dates back to college with his kicking experience. I haven't seen it yet this offseason, but I also think a big part of that is they're not going to show that with the possibility of, for example, if you have fans in the stands during practice, if a fan takes a video and all of a sudden, oh, Quincy Williams kickoff, now that's out to the public, right? So I think if that is a possibility, which I think with these new rules it could be, you're not going to see that until week 1.
Yeah.
A lot of this kickoff rule, I feel like, is going to be touch and feel in the sense of nobody is revealing anything yet. Nobody is revealing any of the trick plays, any of the creativity that they're going to have with this play. And I think a big part of that is you don't want to have that on film. For example, if the Jets break out their, trick play kickoff in week 3 of the preseason, now the 49ers have that on tape. Now they can prepare for it. If you don't break that out until week 1, now that could be the advantage of you winning a game. That a big return could flip the entire game on its head. So I think whether it's on the return side or the kick side with someone like Quincy, I'm interested to see it, but you're not going to see it until the regular season if it does happen.
Bradley with a super chat for us. If Reddick doesn't play at San Fran, next game I want to see him is Monday night versus Buffalo. Should be 4-1 going into that game without him. Hey, if he doesn't play week 1, next game I want to see him play in is week 2. I don't want to delay this. You never know who's going to get hurt. You never know if a game that you think is going to be easy somehow is close. The Jets beat the Eagles last year when no one gave them a chance without Sauce and DJ Reed, right? The Jets should have beaten the Chiefs last year when they were a huge underdog with Zach Wilson at quarterback, right? So you don't want to chance it. If Reddick doesn't play week 1, I want him there for week 2. I'm not messing around with this.
It is the NFL. Anything can happen on any given Sunday, Monday, Thursday, occasionally a Wednesday or a Friday now because money. But, you don't want to risk it. You need to have your best 53 every single game. And the longer you go without Reddick, you're risking more of a possibility of injury affecting you more heavily, or you drop a game because you can't get a pass rush against a specific team.
Completely agree. Now, that was going to be the last call, but this guy specifically requested an opportunity to speak with you, BPOC. So if you have some time here, can we squeeze in one more call?
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, sing along.
B-Mac, look at my TV. B-Mac, I love Aaron Rodgers. Jets, go Jets.
Hey guys, Brandon, how are you? Jake, how are you this morning?
What's up, B-Mac?
I just want to ask Brandon a question. It's about Malachi Corley. Now, I know coming out of the draft, right, he's known for the Yak King, Yak God, you know what I mean? But a lot of people have some negative things about his route running, and you know what I mean? And a lot of people say his route running was a weakness coming out of college. Now, you've been there for training camp and watching it live and stuff and seeing him. How is his route running is in training camp? Is his route running has been proven, or you think there still needs some work going into this?
I think a big part with Corley is, he's coming from Western Kentucky, right? Like he's coming from a school that didn't play the best competition always. And with that type of athlete being at that type of school, a lot of times you can just win with athleticism. You can just get the ball in space. And, Corley, with his nickname being the Route King, the Yak King, he can just make things happen after the play as like a pseudo running back with the ball in his hands. I have seen some of the route running come along. He looks a lot better in that short yardage stuff, a lot better in some of his deeper routes, but it has to keep developing. I think once it gets to a certain point for him, you're going to see the Jets put Corley on the field more and more and more outside of his specific touches that it seems like the Jets are going to want to get him. It's going to be something that develops over the year because like they do with almost every other rookie, they're not just giving him the job right off the bat. When he's ready and that route running is at a good enough spot where they want to use him in an extensive role, you're going to see him on the field.
I'm with you. I think he'll have a role, and then as he learns more and they get more comfortable with him, they'll start adding more and more for him to do. But he's going to have a role, I think, right away. I think there was some thought, maybe it's going to be Gibson. Like I think Corley's going to be out there a lot more than maybe some realize.
Yeah, 100%. I think that you can't keep the ball out of this guy's hands. You need him to, whether it is on short passes or any trick plays that the Jets come up with, you need to give him touches, not only to keep the defense on their toes, but also get the ball in the hands of one of your best playmakers.
100%. Brandon, great job out of you, man. Appreciate you coming on, giving us a good perspective on everything going on this week. I'm sure we'll catch up with you soon. It's going to be a busy week for the Jets, so I appreciate you coming on and giving us some time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
He's Brandyn Pokrass. Give him a follow on Twitter at BPOC24, and you can read his work at jetsxfactor.com. Good job by Brandon there. Today's Jake Asman Show presented by my friends with Underdog Fantasy. Folks, fantasy season's here. Let's be real. All right, I've already drafted some Underdog fantasy teams. You could draft teams for preseason games. That's how much fun fantasy football is with Underdog. It makes a preseason game all of a sudden a lot more watchable if you could have some action in the game when you're watching two teams match up. Yes, I definitely picked against Zach Wilson yesterday with some of my Underdog picks on Pick'em. Oh, by the way, if you want to play Underdog Fantasy, get set for the NFL season, their season-long fantasy contests, their daily fantasy contests, you name it, they have something for you, the sports fan. Make sure you download the app and you sign up using my code ASMAN, and they're going to offer you a 50% deposit match up to $250. So take advantage of this special. Once again, promo code ASMAN at sign up, and you will get a 50% deposit match up to $250. Shout out to Underdog for being a part of our show. Comments, questions, super chats. We'll cut the line. We are seeking more Asmaniacs. We've added 13 channel members so far. If you want to watch the best of the Jake Asman Show, episode 6, become an Asmaniac by either hitting the join button or turn that gift receipt on, because you never know when someone might make it rain. Big fella with a super chat. He says, sign Yannick Ngakoue. Enough of this Reddick BS. I don't think they'll do that, big fella, because then I still think they redo Reddick's contract in some capacity. When that happens, they have now less money to redo Reddick's contract with, right? So I think they're comfortable going into the year with what they have, with the hopes of Reddick showing up, because he's not going to miss the whole year where then his contract tolls over, or he shows up and is not going to give good effort because he needs to play well to get paid. So I think that's their approach. That's how I think they're looking at it. Jeremy says, who would you say has the edge for QB3? I don't think they're going to carry 3 quarterbacks on the roster, Jeremy. But I would say Martinez is ahead of Peasley in my mind, just because of his traits. He could run a little more of an athlete. You know, he did play against some competition in the UFL. But I think the Jets are going to basically, IR Jordan Travis. So he's going to be stashed on IR for the year. True, like red shirt developmental year for him, just sitting and learning. And I think they'll try and keep either Martinez or Peasley on the practice squad. If neither gets claimed, I think Martinez would be the guy. Purple Belt Mike writes, and imagine losing a game in this scenario. Drive down with 10 seconds left, score a touchdown to go up 5, kick off and they return a touchdown. You lose by 1. Definitely happening this year. It could. I mean, the kickoff is now a play again. It's not, a formality. It's not an afterthought. Do I think it's going to be as drastic as maybe some think? Probably not. But I think it's going to be something that does, impact some games this year. Certainly more so than it has in years. Here for the meme says, better keep Jordan Travis on the roster or he will get sniped. So the Jets could just put him on injured reserved and he can't get sniped. And then it protects a roster spot. That's how I look at it. Top Cat says, I just woke up. What'd I miss? Oh, nothing. Pittsburgh Mike says, caller's internet today is bad. What's worse, the Jets offense at practice apparently today or the caller internet connection we've had? Aaron Rodgers, 11 of 27 with a pick today on 11 on 11. His worst practice at camp. Tony Adams on the final play of practice picked Rodgers. Tell you what, you kind of like that in a weird way. Because now the offense can go out there and attack tomorrow. Right? Bounce back. Especially with the Giants coming in on Thursday. You got to be ready. Rat Diddy says, Jake needs Bluetooth sets in the merch store. Huh. Let me check the date of the joint practice. I'm pretty sure it's actually Wednesday, not Thursday this week. I will confirm that right now. The joint practice is, in fact, Wednesday. Because tomorrow they have practice that is open for the fans, and then they have a practice with the Giants Wednesday. And this is the final week of training camp practices. And what that means is basically this is the final week the media could be on site watching practice. Then it's closed. So that's how it looks. So that's where, like, we talked about, that scenario of Quincy, potentially being used on kickoffs, right? The Peter Schrager clip that Franco asked us about in one of his calls. Like, that's where they would work on that stuff because the media wouldn't be around to see it or report on it. You'd be able to keep that private. I have open phone lines if anyone wants in on the conversation. We're going to be back recapping a brutal offensive practice day, apparently, at 4:30 when Antoine Staley from the New York Daily News joins the show. So if you want in on the conversation, now is certainly the opportunity to do exactly that. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us right now is someone that we saw in person Saturday night in New York City. He gave us a live rendition of He's Gonna Die. Ladies and gentlemen, we bring on Dre. Hello, Dre.
How you doing, Jake? How's everything going?
What's up, Dre?
Hey, just calling in because I had a few minutes and I'm calling from my secret location since it's difficult for me to call in from work now. You know me, I'm finding ways around everything.
I love it. I love it, Dre.
So it was such a pleasure for me to meet everybody. I have a confession to make. I had an entire conversation with Jay Graves. Didn't realize that it was her.
Oh my God.
We just had a whole interaction. It actually involved the gentleman, the grabber. He was there with me.
Jay Rodriguez, the Grim Gripper, as I like to call him.
Yeah. So we were having a whole conversation, and he was explaining to me how much he loved Jay Graves. Jay Graves was one of his favorites, and she literally hit him live in person with the Calm Your Freaky Down, and I lost it. I was so hilarious, and so I joined in with her. I was like, okay, we had to calm our freaky down.
Good God.
So shout out to Jay Graves. She's awesome. Gotta tell you, I love this community. You guys are like family to me. Like going down, I had already made plans. Okay, here's how we're gonna do that. I gotta actually budget for this because I can't just come down on a whim. I've got to take time off and stuff like that. I already have my scheduled PTO in line with the home opener and the Halloween game, and I'm taking days off around those dates because I need to be prompt and early on time for all the L5 festivities. Definitely, if you can't come to one of the meetups, definitely come out to a game. And that's what I'm telling everybody. If you're a Jet fan, you know what? This is the season where you're going to wish you've seen a live game. Yes, we're comfortable when we're sitting at home watching the game on our TV. We got all the great angles, but there's something about being at the event. You can be excited for this team, but I tell you right now, I would have missed out if I had not gone to that first Buffalo game when we had Zach 2 years ago, and we actually won that game, which was a huge surprise. Sauce was there defending at the very end of the game. I was there at that game. That was the closest I've ever been to feeling playoff atmosphere. Like, we were super excited. If I remember correctly, I believe that was our 7th win that season. This is rookie Sauce's year. So I remember feeling like, oh wow, we got a shot at this. We can really do something here. Our defense was lights out, and hey, maybe Zach is enough that we can have. So now going forward, knowing that that's a pipe dream, but feeling that electricity, you could probably speak to it more than I could about that week 1 electricity and what it must have been like just for the starting lineup. You know, you have to experience that. If you're a Jets fan, you have to. So I urge everybody, you know what, the Ticketmaster offers Klarna options, so you could pay for the ticket in 4. But as Brian says, smash that like button, destroy the like button. Let's go. This community is fantastic. I love every single one of you, and I will see you all at week 1.
Dre, you're the man, and we will see you soon. And he's back. You left, and then you came back.
I can't. You can't keep me away. I can't stay away.
Dre, I appreciate the call, man. You're a legend.
No problem, my brother.
He's gonna die. We got a live rendition of that, folks. The best was someone commented the next day. Favorite part of the night was Dre giving us a "he's gonna die" live. Only this community. The best. You know, we've heard from Dre. We've heard from Bonesy. We haven't heard from V-Man. I'm talking about yesterday's show as well, the postgame show. I want to hear from V-Man what he thought of the meetup. Watching a game with V-Man, and I lived to tell the tale. Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a couple minutes left in the show. JT is on the line. He was at our event on Saturday. What's up, JT?
Yo, Jake. Yes, I was at the event. What a time it was at that event, man. I just wanted to hype up that event a little bit and say that anybody that did not get to come out to that needs to make a regular season game if you can, because that was a blast.
That was the plans blast. To do more. You know, I'm speaking with them this week, so I'll have more info. We're gonna aim for week 1, but I'm definitely gonna keep you guys posted on what we have cooking, because I mean, imagine that for a regular season game now, right? Come on now, the energy, it's gonna be insane.
Oh, dude, that'll be ridiculous. I think I lost service on my phone over here. No, I'm back. All right, so I was just on lunch break, getting back down to my PC, but I want to share this. So the first time I met V-Man, I was standing outside of T-Squared smoking a joint, and this man walks by me and lights up as well. I'm like, oh, V-Man. So I had a nice little conversation with V-Man before the event. That was pretty cool. Hilarious. Looks like I'm breaking up on my phone.
You sound good, JT. Just ignore whatever your phone's saying, because we see you and we hear you fine. So continue.
Oh, cool. It's just the video's choppy. Yeah, but man, meeting everybody there, getting a live rendition of He's Gonna Die, it was just a fantastic event, man. So I really encourage anyone and everyone to drop what you're doing if you can make it to a Jake Asman T-Squared social event.
I love it. JT, I appreciate you coming, man. It was great to meet you, and we're going to have more of them. It was a lot of fun.
Likewise, man. You have a good one. I'm going to get back to work now.
You got it, JT. Check it in. You know, I could tell in my interactions with V-Man that he was a little in the clouds, so now it's confirmed. Tremendous. Tremendous. Hit the like button. Hit the V-Man emoji after that one, or as Keith Best would call it, the V-Man Edgemo. Folks, reminder, the Jake Asman merch store is open. You could get your merch at jakeasman.com. If you're a Patreon member, Patreon subscriber, every item in the store is always 15% off, which is great because you're going to save more than $5 with your Patreon membership, right? So you're basically getting Patreon for free if you plan on buying merch, including this shirt I'm wearing right now. Got a whole bunch of Asmaniac shirts in the mail this weekend, so excited to rep it. So go buy merch, jakeasman.com. We're going to add some new items as we continue. But shout out to everyone who came to T-Squared on Saturday repping their Jake Asman Show as Maniac merch. Awesome to see. Love to see it. Matthias says the Asmaniac army is strong. That's right. That is right. It is strong. It is powerful. And it's growing. If you're watching the show live, please hit the subscribe button. You can see it on the right-hand side. That button, just click it, and it is that easy. David says, I have a Jake Asman Show sticker on my car. How about that? Love it, David. Love it. So I mentioned we're going to have Antoine Staley join us during the second show today. He'll be joining us at 4:30 Eastern. We'll recap what apparently was a brutal practice for the offense today. We'll get into that with him. And then I've been saying it the last couple of days. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to be joined by Ian O'Connor, who wrote the book about Aaron Rodgers. Ian has been on our show before. He gave us, I think, the first interview that he did when he announced that he was writing the book on Rodgers. The actual book comes out tomorrow. He was nice enough to send me a copy last week so I could get a head start on it. So we'll have Ian on tomorrow, talk about Rodgers, talk about the Jets, and much more with him at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Anthony B says, that subscribe suggestion reminded me to like this video. Almost forgot. There you go. Like the video, subscribe. Some of you are like, how come I never get gifted a membership? Well, maybe you don't subscribe. Maybe you don't like the video because that's how they judge it. So once again, thank you all for your support. Couldn't have done it without you today. Big thank you to Brandyn Pokrass for joining us. Reminder, we're out in Vegas later this week at Circa. So there's going to be some interesting start times for shows because I'm on the West Coast. But we will certainly have plenty of content with some familiar guests on site and some new guests as well. So big week ahead for content, obviously culminating with the Giants game Saturday night at MetLife, where as of now, we still don't know which starters, if any, are going to play. So that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow along this week. But once again, thank you all for your support. Reminder, Best of the Jake Asman Show, episode 6 is out right now. So if you're an Asmaniac, go check it out. We played you a clip earlier from that show. How about another clip to get you rolling, get you excited? I'll talk to you guys at 4:30 with Antoine Staley. Go Jets, everybody. And once again, shout out to the Asmaniacs for being the best fans in all of sports. Addison, you sicko, gifted a membership at the buzzer here. It went to listener Byron Alcantara. So Byron at the buzzer from Addison. Boom. All right. I'm done talking. Talk to you guys in a bit. Thank you all for your incredible, incredible support. Go Jets.
Look, I'm going to turn around.
Keep mooning us. There we go.
No. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I want to apologize for yesterday. I was trying to show off the name on my jersey, but my desk chair doesn't swivel. So I got up and I showed off my butt.